It's time to take a deep breath and quiet the mind. Every breath and thought was energy that brought us to our experience in this moment. We are going to exercise our beliefs in the possible. We will bend and create our own realities. Let's explore how to square our recovery and thrive in life. I welcome you to Recovery Squared Radio with your host, Steve Wofford.
I'm here with Samuel Fox. Sam is a breakthrough coach who specializes in creating oneness through his inner child work. I brought Sam on as one of my coaches in helping me become closer to my own inner child and have gotten to know Sam quite a bit. A few weeks ago, we attended Limitless, which is an intense 3-day breakthrough seminar, and it's really helped loosen some deeply held limiting beliefs. I wanted to have Sam on the show because he has an important message. I wanted to talk with him on how to recover your true higher self. And we do this by connecting to our inner child and overcoming the addicted mind. Sam, welcome, and thank you for what you do. I know that I have experienced some profound growth by working with you. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be on the show. I'm glad to be able to offer my message and some of my expertise to bless your listeners and really help them become whole and achieve the life that they really want, really is what it ultimately is about.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your work. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and the work you do?
Okay, so yeah, I'm a breakthrough and transformational coach. I help people design and create their ideal life from conscious choice rather than, the unconscious reaction, I guess you could speak, that so many of us are living in. And I do that through, like you said, recovering our inner child or recovering that connection to our inner child, which the inner child, it can be explained a couple different ways. But one way is it's our true innocence. It's that purity, that came down from that offspring of God. It's that God that lives within. And so I really help people restore that connection to our inner child. And with that connection, our inner child can tell us everything that stands in our way of creating what we want. That is everything. He can tell us what is creating the issues in our life, no matter what that issue is. Our inner child can give us that everyday next step in creating our goal. I think that's a really important thing, is literally every day receiving and carrying out that next step. So kind of how I got to this place of discovering the inner child and doing the work I do, it's usually through pain, right? Like pain sends us searching for more. And so kind of that climax of pain was about 7 years ago. I got divorced. I went through a divorce, and I remember just, for those of you that have experienced that, we can experience it differently, but the depression, the blame, the feeling betrayed, the feeling pissed off, all of those emotions that are not necessarily pleasant to live with. And that got me searching. And it was about actually, God kind of he's put me on the fast track of many things. And it was about 4 months after my ex-wife left me that I had a profound experience. I was, I pray daily and, to my God, and it was my nightly prayers that I knelt down and I had this profound experience that really opened up what was really wrong with me. Because before then, I'll just kind of give a brief synopsis. I was the know-it-all. I knew it all. I was one of the really smart. My brain knows how to figure out things, and part of that was everyone else was the problem when I wasn't experiencing peace. Like if I'm experiencing frustration in my life, it's everyone else's problem. It's not my own. And so I was heavy in blaming others and trying to change others. And so those two combined really can create a hell for us. I didn't understand what I was doing until during this very powerful experience where God kind of helped me realize through a very spiritual experience where literally I was not only shown, but I was allowed to feel the full depths of the hell that I'd been creating by blaming and trying to change others and thinking that their changing was the answer to my problems. And I literally, like, I cannot describe other than to paint the picture. Imagine a tortured soul and the sounds that they would make. And literally, I got to go through that experience. And I say I got to go through because now personally, it was such an incredible opportunity for me because it unlocked where the true problem was and then where the true solution lies. Because before that, the solution was always, well, the problem was always outside of me, so the solution was always outside of me. If I was at peace, if I was not at peace, or if I wasn't getting what I want, it was something outside of me that was wrong, and that thing outside of me needed to change. But through this profound experience, I came to a knowing, those knowings that you can't deny. It wasn't just an intellectual knowing, but I came to a spirit-to-spirit knowing that I had created my hell and that I was the solution to my hell.
Now, is that when you say that you're a solution, because I can identify with a lot of that. You see all the problems outside of you and you want to fix them, but then you realize how much work that actually takes and it doesn't ever stop. And so that pain gets so bad that you're like, okay, well, what's another way? And then it wasn't until I recognized that power within, but it was different because I was taught that the power was kind of up in the sky and God and just pray. But I found that none of that worked for me. I could pray all day long. It didn't change anything until I found that power within. So can you explain that process for me? The finding your power, like what did that look like? How did you realize that?
You know, through this spiritual experience, and I've had many since, so kind of give a synopsis. You know, there's the intellectual knowing that we gain when we learn about something. But then there's these other experiences that we have, you know, in the Eastern world, some call it the Satori experience, where once you've experienced it, you are changed. You don't have a choice in the matter because of how powerful the experience is. And so, while I still believe in a Father in heaven, I don't anymore believe that the problem or the solution is outside of me. And let me explain that. So the typical, you know, Christian prayer, we pray with our mouth and that sends a voice, you know, to heaven, so to speak. But then God answers us through the Spirit. And so he speaks spirit to spirit. And so what I found was, you know, when I can't hear God, it's not necessarily that he's not speaking or, you know, this outside entity. It was actually the block was within me between body and spirit. And so while I still believe in a heavenly Father, the connection that is either broken or connected is within me. And that makes the difference between whether I hear divine instruction or not. And so the problem and the solution is within me. And so as we turn within, you know, and the Eastern religions and the Eastern philosophies really drive this home, is that all the answers are within. And where the real source is, you know, that, you know, whatever, we don't need to discuss that. But as we turn in, we will find the answers. And so what I found is that as I connected with my inner child and, you know, and as I've done that and as I lead my clients through that, it's a process. It's a process of finding out where I've judged my inner child and the wrongs that I've committed against my inner child, and really healing that relationship through forgiveness, through love, through, repentance, to use a religious term. But it's just this returning to love versus turning to fear or judgment or hatred, or, because we oftentimes we hate ourselves, or we judge ourselves, or we think we're not enough. And this destroys that connection to our spirit, to our inner child, which then is connected to God. And so we don't hear that divine instruction. We don't hear that, divine teacher teaching us or instructing us on anything, like any and everything that we'll ever desire to learn. It, comes through that connection.
Yeah, I love that. It's, and I mean, that mirrors, my recent exploration into my inner child. During the Limitless event that I mentioned earlier, I connected so deeply that it took me back to when I was in kindergarten. And I didn't realize that I had this limiting belief of that people are judging me, and like I shared with you and you helping me walk through it, I was like, I had a couple conversations that bothered me. I'm like, I didn't really agree with what they're saying, but why did I feel so judged? And that was a common denominator. And then when we started digging into that, you had me ask my inner child, well, where does that judgment come from? And the next thing I know, I'm, during my meditation, I'm talking with my inner child, and then I bring up some sexual abuse that happened to me when I was a kid. And then next thing I know, I remember, and this is all like a movie playing out in time. And I remember I was in kindergarten, and I remember what had happened to me. And then I remember at the moment when I'm like, I'm different. I judged myself and I disconnected from that point on. And what that did, it was like, you see in the movies where someone's life flashes in front of their eyes and all these moments and memories. And what I realized is I had a whole lifetime of, from that moment up until that moment, I had that revelation just squished into a single flash that, wow, this judgment's showing up because I've been judging myself ever since. And what it created was just this, after I have this belief, and like you were saying, when people change, you don't have a choice in the matter. It's like when I saw that truth, I no longer have that. I can't show up the same as I did prior to that because I see this new truth. And so, I don't know, that experience is a testament to what this inner child work does. And some people call it different things, but, I know that was very transformational. And I realized all the judgment that I've had against myself. And that's where suffering causes. Anytime we judge something, because we have to say it's right or wrong. And of course, we don't like the wrong things that show up. So we're going to judge it and say it's bad. But at the end, that causes comparison and pain.
Yeah, it causes separation. And so, through the inner child work, kind of the core of what is happening is we are reconnecting. We are creating connection. At the core of all healing is connection. And at the core of all death, so to speak, and we're speaking of spiritual death because we're physically still alive, is separation. And that separation happens through judgment. And even a simple judgment like you experienced of, I'm different, literally creates separation between us and our inner child, us and that our higher self, our pure essence, the love, we can go by many different names, or spirit, whatever. And it drives a wedge between us and that spirit self. And then we're kind of, so to speak, generically speaking, cut off from God. And so all we know is life's a struggle, and I don't know why. But as I reconnect people with their inner child, the inner child can literally, as you explained and experienced, is literally in a flash, and and then more extensively over time, your inner child can explain to you and show you exactly the steps that went down, that created the separation, that created the death, that started the life of struggle. And then through the same means, your inner child can show you every needed step to create the healing, to create the connection, and then every next step you need to do to create the life of your dreams. Every goal you'll ever desire, your inner child can tell you, because this is like your higher self, like, this is the omniscient God that literally is telling you, okay, you want that? Okay, this is your next step. And then, tomorrow, okay, this is your next step, and this is your next step. And literally, we get a daily guide, and even moment by moment guide, if you check in that often, to getting the life of our dreams. And so we never have to go back to that space of, my life sucks, and I don't know why. Anytime my life is a struggle, I can check in, I can go with my inner child and say, okay, I'm experiencing struggle. Why is this? And literally, it could be a thought that I just had, or it could be a childhood memory that's, getting rehashed, reenacted, so to speak. And now I know the true source of why I'm struggling right then. And then my inner child can give me the needed instruction of how to heal that connection and to return to peace and return to love. And I love it because it's just so simple. It's an all-encompassing tool. I don't need any other tool now. I connect with myself and myself only. And because this is why, like in all our problems, right, we have struggles in relationship. Everything is in relationship. When we go to create something, it's always a relationship that's needed to create that thing. And when we have a fight or a struggle, it's always a relationship. Even if it's with ourselves, it's two parties, and then the struggle between that. And what I've found is that as I heal the relationship between me and my inner child, every single relationship in my life changes to realign with how I realigned that relationship with my inner child. And I'm all about leverage because, I don't want to go throughout my life thinking, first of all, okay, what are all the relationships that have struggle in them, that I need to heal? And what are all the relationships that I need to gain? And, there's just so many, it's like getting on the internet for the first time. You're just overwhelmed. But by using this tool, you use one tool, use one relationship to create or recreate every single relationship in your life. If you are struggling in a relationship with another person, through doing this inner child work, you can literally heal the connection between you and that other person through never necessarily communicating with that person, but healing the connection with your inner child. How that person is showing up is really a reflection of an aspect of your relationship with your inner child. And that is why when I heal that aspect of my relationship with my inner child, that relationship with that external person is healed as well.
Yeah, that's powerful because one thing I noticed through my divorce, the reason I had so much stress around it, obviously there's a lot of pain and hurt and those things that I healed over. But what I realized was that, when I went to court, it was when, I'm on the stand and they kind of try to, the other side makes you kind of look bad. They want to show you in the bad light. And I didn't understand on one hand, it's kind of silly, to be honest with you. Some of the things they say, but I didn't understand why I had so much stress over it or suffering because they were saying had no validity. But then why did it bother me? I probably wouldn't think twice about it, but for whatever reason, in that contest, it caused me so much suffering. And it's probably because there was a relationship there, someone that, you used to care about. But it came down to the judgment that I was feeling. And then once that judgment was released, I've seen some improvement in some of the relationship. And so it's really powerful. And what you were saying, I want to make sure it's clear to the listeners that this is not only a tool for healing,
yes,
but it's also a tool to produce abundance. And I'm kind of seeing both, and it's almost kind of like a guardian angel that you funnel everything through, kind of like a proxy that helps guide you spiritually, which is powerful, whether it's negative or positive as we perceive it. It's like someone going ahead of you and kind of clearing the path of all your pain and suffering, and then also the life that you're trying to create.
Yeah, it is. It's so true because, in the transformation realm, or, if your listeners are in, the whole conscious creation movement, and, any level of just simply taking on your life and getting out of the rat race and choosing your life versus just thinking you have to take what's handed to you is, what I've found is that, other people in the transformation realm and even other coaches, sometimes we get in this trap of, okay, I've got to heal myself and then I can create my life. And what I love about this tool is as I'm healing myself, I'm creating my ideal life. It's happening simultaneously because this one relationship is both healing and building every relationship outside of me. Just the other day, as I've been doing my healing work, just the other day I got a phone call. Actually, I got a message from a friend, and then I was unclear on some things, so I called her up, and as we were talking, she's like, "Hey, I want to do this joint venture with you and all this stuff, and I really feel, good to work with you and all that." And at first, like before, so prior months, I thought she was going to be working with someone else. And I was like, okay, well, opportunity lost, but whatever. And actually, well, let me go there. So when I felt that opportunity was lost, I got triggered a little bit. And so rather than blaming other people for stealing opportunity, whatever, I said, oh, interesting. I'm not feeling okay about this. I'm feeling some judgment. So I went in, I did some inner child work. I found where the true problem was within me, not the problem. My brain and mind will think the problem is them, outside of me, but I know it's inside of me. So I went inside, I found the source of the problem. I found the separation in my relationship. I healed it. And then all of a sudden she was reaching out to me and saying, hey, actually, I want to work with you. And because of this joint venture, I'm going to get passive income, literally residual income off of things that just by me helping her in a few areas, work that she does on her own will literally benefit me, and we talk about money because, that's often one way we gauge success and all that. And so that's why I'm talking about it. But it's not just money. There's relationships being formed and all this stuff that I'm going to gain, all because I at least opened up the opportunity to work with her. Because when I found out that she wasn't going to work with me, it was triggering to me. And rather than blaming and thinking, oh, she's horrible, whatever, I went inside, I did the work, and then that opened up the possibility for a relationship to come in. And then, she called me and said, hey, actually, I want to work with you. And because of that, I'm going to have these multiple passive income streams from mostly her doing work. And it's just going to benefit me just because, I'm going to coach her and do some things with her. But then the work she does and the coaching she does, there's going to be some residual affiliate type fees that will flow into me. And so I'm like, wow, so that's just one example of how turning within and healing within rather than blaming without can open us up to a life of abundance and creation.
I love that. That's it's kind of, the more you get out of the way, so to speak, it's a lot of life just kind of creates on its own.
Yes, like God or the universe, however you want to talk about that, it wants to bless us so much. And literally it is our judgments of ourselves. And I will say, judgments of self and others, but really, whether it's judgment of self or others, it's always a judgment of self, because they are a reflection of some aspect within me. And so literally, it's only our judgments that are blocking that abundance of flow and saying, damming that river and not allowing it to flow. And so as we do the healing work, rivers flow. That's what they do. Like, we don't have to convince a river to flow. We don't have to push the water downstream. Like, we just have to remove the blocks and the river flows. And we live in this amazing, abundant universe that never runs out of resources to flow to us, in the form of money, relationships, energy, food, anything. Like, we never run out of anything, but it's our judgments that block that flow. And then so often the trap we fall into is then we create a story for why we are experiencing a lack of flow. Typically, it's someone else's fault. It's the economy's fault. It's the government's fault. It's that person that wronged me fault. It's the person that cheated me out of that deal's fault. We create this story which just justifies us staying stuck. But when we'll drop the story, go within, find the true source of the problem, heal it, then it pulls those big, massive boulders out of the river, and the river starts flowing again. We don't have to. It puts us in the situation of minimal work needed. Now, I'm not, in the game of, you don't need to do any work. You just sit around and think positive and things happen. We have to go out and do work. But that work, that when that work is inspired, when my inner child says, hey, go do this, in a sense, it's kind of like saying, hey, there's this great river flowing over there, go jump in, right? It's that kind of work. Well,
right now we're both actually working right now. This is our profession. But really, it just feels like a couple guys hanging out and, talking as we probably normally would, but we've been blessed enough to make it
right. Yeah. I mean, seriously, right now I'm just playing. Like, we didn't rehearse a script or anything. We're just like, hey, let's get on and see what comes out. And, if we need to do another show to get more detail, like, I mean, I have endless information on this inner child work. I'm continually learning about it. Let's put it that way. So my clients will never stop learning about it as long as they stay connected with me. And so, yeah, we're just chatting, having fun, saying, hey, these are some breakthroughs I've had. This is, something I've found. Let me bless you. And my life gets blessed by blessing other people. Like, I can't think of a more rewarding way to make money, so to speak, or make a living than just standing in my power and blessing others. Like, it's like, pinch me. Like, this is a dream.
Powerful.
And this is what I help clients do, is create their dream life where they live in their passion, and their passion, they don't have to be the broke artist. That's just another limiting belief that, the starving artist, thing. If you follow your passion, you got to be broke. It's like, that's bullcrap.
Well, really, yeah, I mean, really, even the judgments are where all the addictions come from, and those can be just addicted to bad thinking and limiting beliefs, to actual addiction to substances or toxic relationships or food or whatever. It really all comes down to judgments. And my work is about recovering from those things that keep you from becoming whole and flowing. And I mean, we've all kind of went through our rock bottom moments, but I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here today, living my purpose, says a lot to this work. And you're right, it doesn't ever end. We have infinite potential. And so the work really never ends. At least I'm nowhere near the end yet. So I don't even know how far away it is. But, and it's powerful stuff. I mean, you can really create any kind of life that you want. And using these tools is a powerful way to get there.
Yeah, and on the topic of addiction, so healing addiction, 24 years old, so what, I'm, 12, 13 years ago, I had a powerful healing from a very serious multi-year stuck in it pornography addiction. And, the ways of the world, even the best pornography addiction recovery program or any addiction recovery program really out there, I don't really hear any of them that teach be healed, like you're never done with it. And that just didn't ring true for me. And so again, I use this tool. God taught me how to use this tool in this way. And literally within a few months, and who gets results, period, let alone in a few months. In a few months, I had the pornography addiction literally erased from the cells of my body. There was absolutely no temptation, not even a single thought that was uncharged. There wasn't even a thought towards it anymore after that. All through just connecting with my inner child, asking what I should do next, following that, because the world says, fight the addiction, resist the addiction, and all that. And, and God kind of, showed me through some scriptural stories, because I read, the Holy Scriptures, showed me some scriptures where actually focusing on the problem actually creates the problem or perpetuates the problem. And actually focusing on God or the inner child within and following his direction actually keeps me afloat on the water rather than sinking when the waves start crashing against me. And literally within a few months, like that connection was so healed that my mind did not even reach out for that addiction anymore. And so literally any struggle, any disease, addiction, struggle to create anything you are experiencing, this one tool is the tool that can help you do all of it.
I love that. One of my missions is to change how people think of addiction. And that it could, I mirror that experience. Our paths were a little bit different, but at the same, I think they're at the core and why me and you have connected. But it's that you don't have to, you can have complete transformation. You can heal. You can cure addictions. And, that's what Recovery Squared is about and why I had you on the show, because I want to give people solutions that are not in the mainstream. And at best, some of these, it keeps you mediocre or average. And in order to really thrive, you have to become, whole and complete and connect with your higher true self. And, what's more powerful than a connection to God, and the God that lives within. So I think that's all really, really powerful stuff. And I appreciate you sharing all this. And I know we could do a number of follow-up shows on this. But if there was, Sam, if there was one thing that you could do to square your recovery, what would that be?
So using this tool is, and I'll just kind of give a brief synopsis, and you guys can reach out and to learn more, but kind of the process that I lead my clients through is step one, we connect with this inner child within, and I have them ask, how have I wronged you? You've got to know how you've judged the innocence within you, because you started out innocent coming to this world, but then the judgments got laid on one top of another, and you started becoming fractured and separated from yourself, and then you started experiencing this separation, in many forms, depression, addiction, disease, whatever. So as your inner child tells you how you've wronged it, so now you're aware of it. Okay, it's a 4-step process. So awareness is step one. I've got to become aware of how I've judged my inner child. I've judged my pure innocence. Then step 2, I have to take accountability. This is what I did. No one else did this. No one else laid these judgments. Even if someone else offered the words of judgment, I accepted them. And it was me accepting them that created the separation and the harm within me. So step 2 is I got to take accountability that I was the one that wronged my inner child. And then step 3 can kind of show up a few different ways, but I just call it grace. We have to give ourselves some compassion. We got to forgive ourselves. And truly, our power to forgive ourselves is much more powerful than we let on. Like literally, we have the God within, and there's a scripture that I love. It says, "Inasmuch as you forgive, you're forgiven." And I remember the day I thought, wow, I should apply that to myself. As often as I forgive myself, I'm forgiven. And so I put it to the test because, it's great in theory, but let me see if I experience this. And so I started forgiving myself as soon as I became aware of things. And I felt different. I felt freed from that struggle, from that pain, from that, pressing weight of judgment. I was like, whoa, so this works. So step 3 is grace. Forgive yourself. Have some compassion on yourself. And then step 4 is, grace and forgiveness. Those are great and important steps, but then moving into actual loving myself. And I even go as far as the peak, the pinnacle aim is unconditional love towards myself. I love me no matter how I show up, no matter how my body shows up, no matter how my mind shows up, no matter what stupid choices I make in each moment, no matter if I slip or not, I love myself. And that step, as I accomplish that more and more, that actually makes it so that it literally becomes impossible to fall back into addiction, back into disease, and back into struggle. Like, I use this 4-step process to move into love, but as I actually hit that, and I think it's step by step in our life in different aspects, one at a time, but as I actually reach that pinnacle point of unconditional love, now I just don't judge, and I just seal out the possibility of introducing new struggle into my life. And that it is just such a powerful place to live from and to stand in, where I just love me and I'm free to experiment and try out new things, because if I struggle, if I fail, it's okay, because you know what? I still love myself. And man, that is such a weight off our shoulders. Like literally, I've experienced it. Like I'm more willing to try new things because I'm not afraid of failure. Because I'm not afraid of judgment that will happen if I fail. I know I'll love myself. And so that's kind of how to square your recovery, is those 4 steps of, you got to become aware of how you've judged yourself. And like I said, I use this, inner child tool of just connecting with the source and saying, hey, how have I wronged you? And then take accountability for it. Don't rebuttal your inner child. Don't say, yeah, but. Just own it. Yep, I'm sorry. And just really own it. And then, and then accountability, like I said, and then the grace, forgiving myself, having compassion. And then step by step, stepping more and more every day into that unconditional love towards myself. And when I'm there, like, I'm squared, I'm good. Like, I'm not going to struggle. And then each day I just find those points in my life that need more awareness, that needs the accountability, that needs the grace, and then needs the unconditional love. And so kind of one aspect at a time, I'm shoring up my recovery and shoring up my unconditional love for myself. And from that unconditional place, we literally are limitless beings who can create anything we can dream of. And that's what really excites me in life.
Oh man, that gives me chills, man. I love that. Well, what I will do is I'll put a little outline of this in the show notes, and I'll also put, how to contact you and get in touch with you if any of the listeners feel inclined. Hey, Sam, dude, I love you, brother, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. It has been. We're just playing.
That's
this
right.
is work. Just playing and helping others. So I love it.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You can find all the links in the show notes at recoverysquared.com. This show is about creating content that helps inspire and transform lives, regardless if you're in a dark place or just want to get to your next level. When you visit recoverysquared.com, you can click on the Access Now button, and I will send you some other tools to help you get to your next level using some of the things we discussed on this show. The first thing I will send you is a free one-on-one coaching call with me where we will get clear on getting you to your next level. This is an experience in its own right, and this will not last long, so act quickly. Second, I have also developed a belief guide to send you that illustrates the Recovery Squared belief process in the road to transformation. And third, we are building a community around Recovery Squared. And when you sign up, we will add you to our exclusive, secret Facebook group where we can connect with other tribe members. I want to build relationships and build our tribe, so I'm excited for you to be a part of our community. I love you and so grateful for you listening and supporting Recovery Squared. Thank you for listening to Recovery Squared Radio. Please visit recoverysquared.com for access to resources on squaring your recovery. And as a reminder, act without doing. Create space between your thoughts and actions.